If we take a closer look at the European history, the importance of 9th May cannot be overstated. It was the day when the German dictator Adolf Hitler was defeated by the Soviet forces, a turning point that marked the beginning of the Nazi Germany's downfall. What followed was the push of Western powers into the heart of Europe, eventually bringing about the official end of Second World War in the continent. For decades, this date was solemnly observed across Europe, particularly by the former Soviet republics Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, the Baltic states that paid a heavy price during that war. But today, the narrative is shifting, not by accident, but seemingly by design. The very countries that once honored this day are now distancing themselves from it. What was once a symbol of victory and sacrifice is now being rebranded, diluted, or erased from public memory. The Baltics, which suffered the most, is now a brainless zombie, and Latvia is leading the charge. Recently, the Latvian police detained 8 individuals and launched 67 administrative cases during the events marking the 80th anniversary of the Nazi Germany's defeat, local media reported. The accusations ranged from displaying banned Soviet symbols and playing Russian wartime songs to laying flowers in the colors of Russian flag. The acts are now deemed as unacceptable under Latvia's tightened laws. Reportedly, the country has also prohibited the use of Soviet era symbols, citing the need to curb what it calls totalitarian propaganda. But critics say that these measures go far beyond decommunization, effectively silencing the historical remembrance and alienating the country's sizable Russian-speaking minority. For them, 9th of May is not about glorifying oppression, but honoring the relatives who died during the World War II. The Deputy Police Chief, Andres Zeles, confirmed that most of the alleged violations occurred in Riga, Kurzem, and Latgale. Offenses including wearing of the St. George's ribbon, a historic military symbol widely seen across post-Soviet world as a mark of remembrance, and visits to Soviet monument sites. Although Latvia and other Baltics have largely destroyed these monuments, but still, some of the sites remain. Despite the police warning, residents reportedly lit candles and placed flowers at former monument locations. In the city of Zemgale, one man was also fined €350 for wearing Soviet youth badges, while another in Bolvi received €300 fine for displaying the hammer and sickle in his garage, symbols that were once central to the war against Hitler. Well, Latvia's stance is not unique. In neighboring countries like Lithuania, authorities went a step further by installing rubbish bin in Vilnius, labeled for coronations, candles, and Soviet nostalgia, deliberately placed at a traditional tribute site. The city mayor also stated that the gesture is directed at those nostalgic for the time alongside Russians, a move seen by many as both provocative and contentious. Even Russia has strongly condemned the measures across the Baltics, calling them an affront to destroy the memory, to insult those who helped during the war. Even Lithuania's own Prime Minister, Gintatas Palakas, later admitted the risk of provocation stemmed not from the laying flowers but from those intent to preventing them. Meanwhile, in Germany, similar restrictions were upheld this week. A Berlin court banned Soviet flags, St. George ribbons, and wartime music at 8th or 9th May public events. The Russian embassy simply called the ruling discriminatory. Even the monuments, once symbol of sacrifice, are now being torn down, not for what they represent, but because today's geopolitical rivalry says different. The remembrance is now dictated by where one stands on Putin or Zelensky is both absurd and actually very shameful. Reducing a complex and painful history to a political loyalty test dishonors the millions who died fighting fascism. Erasing their legacy won't change the past, but it will only expose the shallowness of those rewriting for their own convenience.